Good day and welcome to another edition of editorials. My name is Sandra Asante and we are broadcasting from Canada. Today we'll be drawing concerns on two things. We'll be looking at Ethiopia denying the military plane shot down by rebels, as well as UN's assessment for Tigray. So stay tuned. I'll be back. Don't go anywhere shortly. Thank you so much for always staying. You're welcome back from the break. We will start off with the military plane shot down by the rebels. The Ethiopian military has rejected claims that its plane, which crashed in the Tigray region on Wednesday, was shot down by rebels. An army spokesman told the BBC that the military plane suffered a mechanical problem. It has not said how many people were on board. The Tigray People's Liberation Front, the TPLF, alleged that its forces struck an aircraft carrying ammunition and soldiers wearing Eritrean uniforms. Eritrea has been fighting alongside the Ethiopian government in a conflict in Tigray. Over the past week, fighting has escalated in the region, with the Ethiopian Air Force accused of carrying out an airstrike on a market, killing and wounding dozens of civilians. The Ethiopian military has denied targeting the civilians. Images of the crash site shared by the Tigray's rebels show what is believed to be a C-130 Hercules transporter plane completely decimated. The BBC has examined some of the photos and videos of the wreckage. People can be heard monitoring the crash site in Adikaila, about 25 kilometers, that is 15.5 miles southwest of the regional capital, Mekelle. The TPLF said its anti-craft guns had shot the plane down as part of its government counter-offensive against the government. One peaceful areas close to Mekelle are now experiencing renewed violence. There is growing international concern about the resurgency in fighting, especially as all sides have been accused of carrying out mass killings and human rights violations. More than 5 million people are in urgent need of food aid, and the United Nations warns 350,000 of them are facing famine conditions. That's quite sad there, but right now let's turn the channel to UN's latest assessment for Tigray. So, high and critical levels of food insecurities and malnutrition are widespread and would likely slip towards catastrophic levels and looming famine if not addressed immediately. The Integrated Food Security Phase classification shows that over 350,000 people are already facing catastrophic conditions since the northern Tigray conflict. The security situation remains highly complex and extremely volatile. Ongoing hostilities and attacks, including on main roads, and the use of artillery shelling are reported in several locations. On 22nd of June, reports received of airstrike that killed and wounded civilians in a market in Togoga Central Zone. Armed forces have reportedly blocked roads and denied medical personnel timely access to the wounded. Acting Under Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator Ramesh Rajasingham called on the Ethiopian authorities to carry out a prompt and effective investigations into this attack and subsequent acts depriving victims of medical treatment, and to prosecute perpetrators of serious violations of international human law as well. Partners reported challenges transporting medical supplies, food and non-food items to multiple locations, especially to hard-to-reach areas due to the denial of access. access. Checkpoint in Agulai Eastern Zone, Majarat Southern Eastern Zone, Mechao Southern Zone, and Inticho Central Zone remains main bottlenecks for humanitarian movement. However, Dongolet Checkpoint Southern Eastern Zone was dismantled during the reporting period. On the 18th of June, the interim regional administration issued a directive on the new regulations at checkpoints to facilitate access for humanitarian organizations. UN and other international and local humanitarian vehicles would undergo an expedited search with no additional permission letter required other than the previous obtained from the Prime Minister's office, according to the directive. Humanitarian cargo will be given a priority to pass through with no lengthy delays. In the meantime, while the UN staff and some INGOs partners, mainly big INGOs, are able to receive 3-month visa extension to operate in the region, other partners' requests are being rejected. Visa extensions for all partners area prerequisite to sustain existing programs and scale up operations. Harassment, intimidation, detention of aid workers, as well as confiscation of humanitarian supplies continue to be reported. For example, on 16th of June, 6 barrels of oil belonging to an INGO were confiscated at a military checkpoint out of Mekelle towards the Eastern Zone. On the 17th of June as well, Eritrean forces reportedly stopped and physically assaulted a vaccination team in Asege, Wareda, Northern Western Zone. On the 16th June, a mission visited Sambre and Gijet Wodera's Western Eastern Zone. It noted public facilities including administration office, schools, health facilities, and water supply and system destroyed, vandalized, or looted. Partners provided limited food, nutrition, non-food items, and health services. Food aid is urgently needed, with some parts of the zone are at risk of starvation. Another interagency assessment mission was also carried out in the Eastern Zone, including Adigrat, the zonal capital, and IDP sites in Idaga, Humos, Frenieni, and Wukrus towns. The mission observes high levels of vulnerability among the IDPs, but the substantial community support. Food, cash, health, including vaccinations for children, and social support are among top need in the sites visited. In the Western Zones, about 500 people, that is 100 households, reportedly returned to Dansha from Metema, in Amara region, and from neighboring Sudan. Food has been distributed in zones in the first 2 months since the conflict, but there has been no distribution since February. High and critical levels of food insecurities and malnutrition are widespread and will likely slip towards catastrophic levels and looming famine if not addressed immediately. UNICEF says that at least 33,000 children in inaccessible parts of Tigray are severely malnourished and face imminent death without immediate help. UNICEF projects that 56,000 children under 5 will need treatment this year for severe acute malnutrition, more 6 times higher than the average annual caseload for the region. While partners continue to scale up response, progress in some sectors is still sufficient to meet high needs. Of the 3.2 million people targeted for water, sanitation, and hygiene, for example, to date, only about 20% or 631,000 people were reached. Access restrictions, insecurities, lack of fuel, damages to water system, lack of spare parts and equipment to repair or maintain water system, as well as lack of funding are among the reasons behind this response gap. Conflict-related sexual gender-based violence continues to be reported across the region. On the 18th of June, the eve of the International Day for the Elimination of Sexual Violence in Conflict, over 50 influential women from Africa or of African descent designed an open letter in solidarity with the women and girls in Tigray. They urgently called for an immediate ceasefire, increase and timely humanitarian access for the survivors, and an independent justice mechanism to ensure that those responsible for the sufferings are held account. Similarly, more than a dozen renowned women, including former administrator of the UN Department Program Helen Clark, called the UN Security Council to set up a tribunal to investigate the allegations of sexual violence in Tigray as a war crime, a crime against humanity, or a constitutive act of genocide. They added that failure by the international community to act will undergo the process made so far in eliminating sexual violence in conflict. In a joint statement on 18th of June, EU High Representative Joseph Borrell and UN Special Representative on Sexual Violence in Conflict, Pramila Patten, said they are deeply concerned about the use of sexual violence in the Tigray region and called on all parties involved in armed conflict to heed the UN Secretary General's call for a global ceasefire and immediately end all acts of violence related to sexual violence. On the 13th of June as well, the G7 called for an immediate cessation of hostilities, unimpeded humanitarian access to all areas, and an immediate withdrawal of Eritrean troops. This is where I end today's editorials. Thank you so much for always watching and tuning in. My name is Sandra Asante. Do have an amazing day.